Welcome to part 2 of chapter 8, cellular energy. In this portion, we will discuss the process of cellular respiration that occurs in both plants and animals. Basically, what respiration is the breakdown of glucose to get ATP for the cell. Remember, our organelles, the powerhouse of the cell, is the mitochondria because it generates that energy for the cell. There's two different ways cells can undergo respiration. One type is when oxygen is used to break down glucose and ATP, and we call that aerobic respiration. Aero, of course, stemming from the Latin phrase air. So in this case, meaning oxygen loosely, is used to break down glucose and ATP. The other type of respiration is termed anaerobic. When we put a or an in front of a science word, it means no or without. So this is when oxygen is not used to break down glucose and ATP. A type of anaerobic respiration that is performed by animal cells is called glycolysis. So this is when glucose is broken down, again, without the presence of oxygen. The result of glycolysis, because it's anaerobic and does not require oxygen, you don't get many ATPs from glycolysis. For every molecule of glucose that's coming through glycolysis, you only get 4 ATP. What glycolysis does, however, is it provides 2 high-energy electrons to be used later to form more ATP. So this is the procedure of glycolysis. In glycolysis, you have to spend a little money to make a little money. So there does have to be some ATP present to change the 6 carbons in the glucose sugar to different versions of a 6-carbon sugar. And then it changes to a 3-carbon sugar. And of course, 3 and 3 is 6, so you've got 2 of those running through the cycle. At the very end of glycolysis, your result is those 4 ATP. And 2 molecules of what's called pyruvate or pyruvic acid. The Krebs cycle is the next portion of cellular respiration. Hans Krebs, the gentleman there in the corner, was the man who figured out the chemical process of this. Sometimes it's referred to as the citric acid cycle because citric acid plays a very important role in taking that pyruvic acid and making it into carbon dioxide, which is the byproduct of cellular respiration. Again, it's a cycle, so it doesn't stop, but we take the pyruvic acid and arrange that into various forms of a 6-carbon sugar, and the carbon dioxide, again, is the output of that cycle. We also have an electron transport chain in cellular respiration. Those high-energy electrons that glycolysis generated will travel through the inner membrane of the mitochondria, much like in photosynthesis, how chloroplasts generate high-energy electrons to go through the electron transport chain. As these electrons travel through the membrane, energy from that transfer is used to create ATP. Now, the Krebs cycle, or the citric acid cycle, is an aerobic type of respiration. So in this case, oxygen is used, and through the electron transport chain, you'll get an average of anywhere from 34 to 38 ATP per molecule of glucose. We'll go in the middle and say that our net average for every molecule of glucose that goes through the electron transport chain in cellular respiration is going to be 36 ATP. Other types of anaerobic respiration, where oxygen is not required, is fermentation. Fermentation occurs when glycolysis does not stop. So instead of becoming a 6-step process, all of a sudden glycolysis starts to get into a cycle. One particular type of fermentation that you may be familiar with is lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid is formed when pyruvic acid does not leave the glycolysis process. It actually converts into what's called lactic acid. Sometimes when you are working out or exercising, you feel that burn in your muscles, yes? That burn is because your muscles can't get enough oxygen to perform correctly. So your body is producing, your muscles are producing that lactic acid when they can't get enough oxygen. Now, when you're exercising and you overdo it a little bit and you feel that burn, you stop for a while, you kind of breathe, you slowly work your muscles, stretch them out, then the burn goes away. You've given enough oxygen now to your muscle cells to run glycolysis and the Krebs cycle and aerobic respiration correctly. Another type of fermentation is alcoholic fermentation. This occurs in yeast. Yeast are little single-celled organisms. They are living. And what they do is they will produce alcohol and carbon dioxide if there is no oxygen present where they are residing. So this is a process that is used to make beer and wine and other types of alcohol. However, the most common type of alcoholic fermentation actually happens during cake baking when you have to let your yeast rise. What you're doing is releasing all of that carbon dioxide because the yeast is consuming the sugar in the dough and is outputting that carbon dioxide. So this has been part 2 of Chapter 8, Cellular Energy.